Hello, high school students. It's Mr. Kramer again with another drawing lesson on perspective. Today, we're going to be focusing on a new type of perspective called two-point perspective. Now, like we talked about earlier, perspective was a technique, an artist technique that was developed during the Italian Renaissance, and we saw the technique actually evolve over some time. Originally they started by using one point perspective, but as they started to understand perspective a little bit more, they started using a technique called two-point perspective. So today for this lesson, you're going to need a pencil, you're going to need an eraser, and you're going to need some sort of straight edge. Now once you have those things, you're going to start by putting a line on your paper. You're going to go ahead and start just like we would in one-point perspective. You're going to start by putting your horizon line on your paper. And then instead of putting one point in the middle of our line or anywhere, we're going to put 2 points on our horizon line. And we're going to do this on either side of our paper here. Now, since we have two vanishing points, we're going to be able to get some more interesting angles. So to do two-point perspective, this is how you set up your page. Horizon line, two vanishing points. And then to draw a form, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to draw a simple cube here. I'm going to start here on the bottom left part of my page, and I'm going to start by just drawing one vertical line. Okay, just a vertical line like that. And again, remember, as you're drawing, draw lightly. You're going to erase a lot of these lines, so we want to make sure we draw lightly. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler here, and I'm going to line up my vanishing line. I'm going to line up my ruler with my vanishing point to the bottom of my line here. So I'm just going to create a line like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. I'm going to do the same thing with the top of the line. So step one in drawing your cube in two-point perspective, draw a vertical line, and then connect both the top and the bottoms of the line to both vanishing points. Now once you have that complete, you can create your verticals for the edge of your box. Remember, these must be parallel to this front leading edge. Very, very important. And then to create the top of our box, what we're going to do is we're going to connect the top corners to the opposite vanishing point. So it wouldn't make any sense to connect this one to here because there's already a line there. So I'm going to take my ruler, connect the top corner to the opposite vanishing point, just like this. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other top corner, like this. And if you look in between all these lines here, you can see that the box has been formed. I can take my eraser now. I can clean up my edges. There is your cube in two-point perspective. You notice how the front of the box, it's not like in one-point perspective where the cube is, flat and looking straight towards you. This has a little bit more of an angle. And in art, anytime you can exaggerate an angle or a proportion, it always tends to create more dramatic art. All right. Now, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a form on the horizon line. I'm just going to go like right over here. And I'm going to start by doing a vertical right on the horizon line. And if you remember, in 1-point perspective, when we put a shape on the horizon line, we didn't see the top or the bottom of that form. And the same thing is true in 2-point perspective. It's because your line of sight is right here with the horizon line. You know, your line, that's where your line of sight is. You're standing on the ground, and so if you look off in the distance, when you look at the horizon, you're going to be, if the ground, you know, is flat like this, your eye level is going to be even with that ground. So so anything that's going to reside directly on that horizon line, you're not going to see the top nor the bottom. So same thing here. I drew my vertical. I'm going to connect the bottom of my vertical to both vanishing points. And that pro tip we talked about last time, I don't necessarily have to draw my line all the way there, as long as my line is pointing towards that vanishing point. Same thing with the top. Yeah. Do something kind of like that. And then I'm going to erase the things that I don't need. The horizon line inside this form I need to get rid of. Alright, I'm going to do one last form. And this one is going to be above my vanishing, or my horizon line here. I want to do that so you guys can see this one. And so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start with a vertical. I'm going to connect the bottom of this vertical to both vanishing points. Same thing with the top. Create the edges of my box. Again, they must be parallel to the center line, and then for the bottom of my box, connect those to the opposite vanishing point, and there you go. You have a box above the horizon line. So this would be perfect if you were, like, let's say you were trying to draw a plane in perspective in the sky. You could start by doing kind of like a long skinny rectangle and then adding your wings and things like that. And you could play around with different types of things with this technique, just like we did in 1-point perspective. You could take these objects, you could turn these into buildings, or they can be whatever. You know, these could be a variety of things. So what I'd like for you guys to do today is spend the rest of class working on this technique. Let's go ahead and fill this whole page up with boxes. You should have, I would say, at least 6 by the end of class today, and if you finish 6, you know, maybe you can try starting to cut some holes into these. That's going to be our lesson tomorrow. We're going to talk about how to manipulate these forms, turn them into cylinders and spheres and cones, and we'll be able to create complex objects in 2-point perspective as well, just like we did 1-point perspective. So have fun, and we'll see you next time.